Okay, we'll open with comments from Coach, and then we'll go to questions. Coach?
Well, just want to first of all thank the Fiesta Bowl committee, everybody involved with it. I think they did an outstanding job this week, and just great host. And Tostitos was outstanding as far as what they've done with the team. And you know, we had a good week here, and looking forward to the competition on tomorrow as far as the game's concerned. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Okay, questions. Again, please let us get a mic to you, and please identify yourself. Down here in the front row to the left.
Coach, what's this game mean to you personally? You've been through a lot of trials and tribulations in your career. Early in your career at UCF, fans were not happy with you. What does this mean to you?
Well, you know, I don't worry about whether people like me or not. It's never been a big item in my agenda. But I tell you, as a coach, I've been at this now. This is my 46th year, and at all the different levels. I think I'm happy for our players and the fan base that have been waiting to get to a game like this for so long. And we're still so young in tradition. That's the thing you look at. We really have only been playing Division I football since '97. So I think, you know, we arrived 10 years ago, and you know, each year got better in certain areas of the segments of the football team. And again, I think it's very difficult to get to a BCS game. Obviously, you have to have a good football team to get there. And I think this year was a culmination of a lot of good things happening to the team. Not every game was always pretty, but every game that we went out for 60 minutes, ended up winning the game. That's what's important. I think as far as myself is concerned, I'm not one to be patting anybody on the back very much. And I think basically it's hard to get here in my experience, and the key is to stay here. That's the key as far as football is concerned at this level. And again, we had a very young football team, only 7 seniors that are leaving. So, you know, I think the future's bright. Again, it's a new team next year, and we'll see what we can get done with them. But I've been very proud of the team and what they've accomplished, and just what they put the effort and the, you know, just the competitiveness that they worked with. And it's just not football. Academically, over half the team made the honor roll. So those things are what I'm most proud of.
Here in the front.
Coach, when you look at this team and you look at some of the players that have contributed, there are a lot of guys that didn't have a lot of stars in recruiting, weren't the guys that other schools were running after you. How do you identify and find players like, you know, Will Stanback, no offers. You know, Blake Bortles, a couple offers as tight end. How does the staff go about finding players like this?
First of all, I think a lot of the universities use the star system, and the coach usually gets fired 3 years later. I don't think there's a science to recruiting. I think you got to look at tape, and that's what I look at. I think the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And then do they fit? They take kids that don't fit their program. I think the key to recruiting is to take kids that fit into the culture of your program, that are going to, the chemistry-wise is so important, I think, on a football field as far as programs concerned. But, you know, I spend a lot of time grading recruits, and, you know, and the key thing is height, weight, speed, the things that you have to have. You always recruit range. And I think the key as far as it's not what they've done in high school that's important. And that's where people, how many 5-stars you never hear about, all right? And you look at the NFL is full of 3 stars and 2 stars, because it's what they've accomplished in college that's important, and how quick they can take, you know, coach me, coach attitude on as far as getting things done. And that's how we look at it. And we've had many kids that wanted to come to UCF, but they just didn't fit in the program. I'm strictly into we guys. I'm not into me guys. And I think today, with the exposure that all the high schools are getting, the high school players are getting, we're developing a lot of me guys instead of we guys. And, you know, you win championships really because 2 reasons. You can run the ball and you can stop the run. When you look at any level you play at. And with a bunch of we guys, that winning is the most important thing, not their stats. And that's the culture that we have, and that's the culture of the type of player we're looking for.
Questions? We have a follow-up here in front. Okay, please identify yourself.
Danny Morales of the Valencia Voice here, Coach. You said that you were most proud of what these guys accomplished in the classroom. You have the second best graduation rate of anybody in a BCS team. How does that success in the classroom, help these guys on the field?
Well, it's nice when you can talk to somebody and not have to draw a drawing so they understand what you're talking about. But I think the big thing is that, I always look at how many times you have to repeat something to a certain player, all right? And I think the big thing is that our kids work at the game. They understand when they come into the football facility that there's nothing more important than the 2 hours we're going to spend there as far as football is concerned. And I don't really talk about the chemistry class at that time or something else they may be taking, but they understand what their role is and what basically they should be doing at the different times, time management-wise. We spend an awful lot of time on time management because that's the biggest problem with young kids today is really time management, having something and what they're supposed to be doing at certain times of the day. And that's the biggest issue I spend with, as far as with our freshmen all the time, is understanding that there's priorities, and as I always talk to them, there's 4 things you get concerned about: their faith, if they're going to church, you keep going, and academics, football, and then the one item that, as long as you keep it fourth, you end up all right, is their social life. As one freshman said, Coach, first season, I never met anybody. I said, you met all your teammates, that's your fraternity and stuff, and he said, you'll meet a couple more people in the winter, and then a couple more. So you'll have about 10 people you've met before you graduate, so you'll be all right.
Coach, to follow up on the recruiting question earlier, I guess 2 questions. One, how do you find all these kids, it seems, in the backwoods of Georgia? Is that just somewhere where you've been familiar from your time at Georgia Tech? And 2, do you feel like a season like this kind of alleviates some of that outside perception? Oh, they don't, UCF doesn't recruit well, whatever. But when you have seasons like this, 3 out of 4, 10+ wins, you point and say, we know how to find talent. You might not see it in the stars in the recruiting class, but we know how to find guys.
We rate players too, and what I do as far as the backwoods of Georgia, you've been to Georgia, right? It's not like too backwoods there anymore, but my experience at Georgia Tech I was there 13 years, 5 years as a coordinator and 8 years as a head coach. So I know a lot of people there, and they know what kind of players we're looking for, and they'll actually call down and say, that's a Coach O'Leary type of kid. Now, they understand that I want players that are going to come in and work hard, and basically parents that are very supportive of knowing what's going on. And as I offer scholarships, I always make it I say it's a family scholarship, and that doesn't mean their brother or sister are coming along with them, but the parents are going to be involved in everything we do, and whether good or bad, I'm going to be on the phone talking to them and say, hey, here's what's going on, I need your support. So that's the reason you go into every home that you recruit, to see what the support element is, and we've been very fortunate. We've had great parents, and again, I'm happiest when someone's graduated, say 4 or 5 years ago, and they walk in, they have a great job, and they understand what time management is, they understand what it takes to get along in later life, and that's really what the scholarship's about. It's, you gotta go out and be competitive and win games, but the student end of it's a part of the head coach's job that you gotta make sure you get done too. When they graduate, they're ready for the outside world.
Second row.
John Warner, Waco Tribune Hero. Coach, have you seen team speed, especially offensively, like Baylor has, and how do you try to deal with that?
Well, I tell you what, Baylor's very explosive offensive football team, and they got some speed on defense also. But the key is, and it's not. I think Art does a great job of attacking defenses, and the one thing he's done since I played him last time was he has those wide receivers way out there. So you have to almost commit 3 guys there, sometimes a 4th. And I asked him the other night if he'd bring him in a little bit to help us out and stuff. He didn't seem to answer that question, but I think that's the biggest difference. Plus, he has most of these teams that spread, they either throw it all the time or they run it sometimes to keep you honest. I think Baylor has a really good running game. They got some power people up front. I think Petty does a great job of reading coverage and getting it to the right receiver. And you know, obviously, our game would be we have to be able to tackle in space. You know, if that attack quickly, you can't let them. I think their receivers, a lot of the yardage is not straight on throws, but yak. You know, after a 5-6 yard throw, and then what they make after it. So again, you know, you got to attack and you got to secure the tackle on the tackle and understand they're going to complete some passes, but let's not make them passes that are behind us. That's the time you really start getting in trouble.
Second row to the left, Coach.
Joe Kepner, WFTV Orlando. Coach, you only get just today to go, do the walkthrough over there in Glendale. What do you hope the kids get out of that being at the stadium? And is there really anything left you can do to prepare for Baylor?
Well, we never work out where we're playing. We show up and check the locker room out, so it's not new the first time they're walking in. We won't be in Glendale more than 10 minutes, and then I'm going back to Pinnacle High School to practice. All right, same grass. It's not much different, but I think you want to see the surroundings before they get there, and that's been like that. We've never practiced that on the West Side. We always practice at home and then go and just check the facility out. But I think the players, they're in bowl mode right now. Last night, 10:30 curfew, and I just got leave, and they said everybody was asleep when they went to the room. Now that's either a real good sign or a real bad sign, but I'm taking it as a good sign.
In the back.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Coach, you talked about being at Georgia Tech as long as you were. You've been at UCF now for 10 years. How important is that stability and maybe even, keeping coaches with you too?
Well, I think stability is the key. I really do. I know that the difference, administration has changed since I first started. Normally you had, your coaches came up through the ranks and one of them took over the AD job, and he understood the pressures that are involved in being a head coach, and he understood the problems. And today I see more and more business ADs that, listen to sometimes the wrong ears, and they're firing guys before they have a chance to really get the program under their feet and doing things the correct way. But again, I think that when you look at the whole situation, it's changed. The game has changed. It's obviously it's a big space game now. 3 yards of cloud duster over. But when you check the record books, whether it's the Super Bowl, whether it's the Division I championship, high school championship, it comes down to the same things all the time. All right, look at the teams that don't commit a lot of penalties. All right, have good special teams, and basically can run the ball and stop the run. They're the ones that end up in championship games. Offense obviously, sells tickets and puts people in the seats, but when you come down to the real nuts and bolts of what wins championships, it's those other areas, really, when you check the history of football out.
If we have any questions on the risers, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. Any more questions for Coach? We have one in the middle there.
Joaquin Sanchez, Time Warner Cable News. Coach, you guys have so few seniors, but you found a way to win so many of these close games. What do you attribute that to?
Coaching. No, I said I think we have great assistant coaches, and the way it works, the way I see it, head coaches coach coaches and coaches coach players. That's why I've always believed that, and I think you sort of have to be a jack of all trades as a coach. That's why you see a lot of high school coaches that come into the ranks of college. They do extremely well because they're versed in all the areas. They're not specialized in one side of the ball or the other. You look at Art coached high school, and he's coached it all. So he has a real grip on what's taking place on the field. And if you look throughout the country, the guys with some high school background, you really do well because they sort of have a little bit more knowledge of all the positions, not just the one they played or coached in college. And but I think the key this year is that when we had the opportunity to make plays, we've made them, whether on offense or defense. And again, I think it's offensively this year. I thought coming back this year, that we were going to be a solid offense. We had all the receivers back, quarterback back, a line back, the running backs were back. The addition of William Stanback, he was a really good surprise for us. And again, I expected them to be very solid and to be able to move the chains and put the ball in the end zone. Defensively, we started off fairly decent. We basically lost 6 players at some store during the season, not just for a game, but for the year. So we've had to fill in there, and I think those players have overachieved. When I look at it, they've overachieved. They're playing. We're not making it real difficult for them. We're keeping it simple so they can use their athleticism, and they have ability to make plays, which is the name of the game on defense. You got to get off the field against spread teams. That's what you got to kill the timing some way, and that'll be the job of the defense, and it'll be a tough job against Baylor, who I think is an outstanding offense.
Here to the left.
Gail Jans with Fox 10 here in Phoenix. Can you just talk about what Blake has been able to do in his career and show people his ability?
Blake Bortles, basically, it's funny, we knew about him because he's from Oviedo, which is a town next door to the college, and he was a wing T quarterback. So they don't get a lot of notoriety because they usually just turn around handing the ball off or run some bootlegs or play action. But we had him in camp, and you could see he was athletic. He had the throws that you need. I always look at quarterbacks, if you can put them on a hash and they can throw a 3-cut outside and get there in a hurry with it, they got arm strength to win at this level, and he had all that. So we offered him in camp. Not many other people. They knew about him, but, it's like everything else. He wasn't a 4 or 5 star. And that's I laugh at it all the time, and I say thank you. But I think he's a kid that if he didn't play quarterback, he'd be a heck of a tight end. That's what I looked at when you look at quarterbacks. I look at them as, can they play another position? Because I think the day that just strictly drop back quarterback is over. I think that the pass rushes, the pressures that they put on athletes today, you got to be able to avoid a rush and make a play, take a bad play, make a good play out of it. And he came in and. He's a 6'4", 6'5" guy, about 225, that has great instinct, I think. And I think first year out, when you get behind that center, it all looks like a bunch of spiders over there, and they're moving too fast for young freshman quarterbacks. And I think that second year, this year here, they all slowed down, those spiders, and he understood where the reads were, where the coverage was, where the weakness of the coverage was, where the run front mechanics should be going. And I think that's what he's done. And plus, he's not a real, I'm sure you've met with him, but he's not a real high guy, low guy. He's always right in the middle somewhere. And I think that's basically why I don't elect quarterbacks captains. They are a captain already. That's what I look at. But I think he's a kid that takes things in stride. I think he's done a great job of answering questions regarding the NFL. He's concerned, and I really truly believe that. I've kept my eye on him, and some of you know me better than others here, but his mind and his focus is on this game, and I went down the other night, and they have free time. He's sitting there watching tape and stuff. So I expect him to know where to go with it, and hope we give him the time to let him get the ball where it needs to go. But I just he's matured. That's what he has done, and I think. Basically, the one aspect he has, he's great poise back there. He's never gets unsettled. I saw one game this year, I thought he got unsettled with South Carolina, and he had thrown a couple of picks that he knew were just bad plays, and it was a woe me type thing. I had a long talk with him about it, and I said, one way or the other, you got to move on to the next play, because the kids in that huddle look at the quarterback as the guy. All right, and he is the guy. There's no question about that. But the one thing that people don't realize that he has a lot of weapons around him. We play 6 different receivers. They all can catch it and get. A couple of running backs will be in there that, 225, 220 guys that can carry the rock. And the one thing is, and probably the most important thing offensively, has been that the front line offensively, that's one area that hasn't had any injuries all year. So, that's been a very fortunate idea as far as what's going on as far as offense is concerned, because that's really where you have the toughest chemistry of making sure they're all on the same page. But again, Blake, I'm going to meet with him when we get back on the 3rd with his parents and give him the information I have, and after talking to some GMs and just where he stands. But again, whatever decision him and his family make, I'm going to be very happy for him. Obviously, as a coach, you want him back. But, I want to do what's best for him, and I'll relay the information I got. And then it's really a family decision, what's best for him, and we move on from there.
In the back?
Tyler Grady, Night News. Coach, how does winning so many close games this season help you prepare for a game like this? I mean, what is the mentality like knowing that you can pull out whatever you have?
I hope it's, like you said, close like that at the end. But I think the big thing is I think youth had something to do with that. Sometimes you look at experiences helping out, but the young kids didn't know any better but to play with great effort for 60 minutes, and good things were going to happen. I've always told them, hey, you play with great effort every play, good things will eventually happen. You got so many kids today that are front runners. As soon as things go wrong, the heads go down, and they were allowed to do that in high school and everything else, and that's not how you win games. You go on the field, it's a 60-minute game for a reason, and that's one thing I think the assistant coaches have done a great job with as far as coaching. Hey, it's the next play that's the most important play. Move on. And that's what the kids have taken and run with and done a great job.
Here in the front to the left.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel. Coach, when you look at UCF's athletic budget, it's about half of what some of the teams you've beaten, some of the teams you play. Do you ever wonder what your program could be like if you had the budget that some of these other BCS schools have?
Well, I'm sure the coaches would be fatter, but, I'm not one to keep up with the Joneses. I think at UCF we have what we need to do to win. Obviously, the big difference is recruiting. We're driving to schools. Some schools are flying. But I think the university's done a good job as far as meeting my needs, and pretty much everything I've asked for we get. Where we fall behind as far as not in that top 5 conferences, if there is, everything's about initials now. SEC, ACC, Big 12, it's all initials. There's about 2 or 3 real good teams in each conference. The rest are just members, all right? They get a paycheck for being in the conference. They have no shot at getting to games like this, all right? And I truly believe that, and I tell our players that. That's why when you line up and you go out and play, it's all equal, except for those 2, 3. SEC may have 6 of them that, hey, they're just great teams, but everybody else is the same. But I think the biggest difference right now is, and with this game, is the national exposure that we've gotten, because we've won 10 games 3 out of the last 4 years, and no one knew about it. I think ESPN has done an outstanding job of national games with us, and we've performed well in the national games, and I think that's what's carried over. But we get a lot. I've had almost 19 phone calls now of kids looking to transfer from top 5 power schools. And again, they were kids that we were looking at earlier and told them, hey, it's a distance where you're going. You're going to be looking to come back. And right now, we don't have scholarships available. So I tell them, come on in and walk on and you see if you can earn one. But they don't want to listen to that. But I think things are going very well. And each year we just try, as I tell the coaches, if each coach just brought in one great player, one great one, all right, and then you filled it with good football players, that's a heck of a class. Because, recruiting's a crapshoot. It really is. A kid may be a great high school player, but when he gets to campus, he doesn't fit into your program. He doesn't compete because now he's competing against kids the same size, same speed. And I've always said it's not the physical thing, it's the mental toughness that separates kids who play early. Because the ones who play early are freshmen that don't act like freshmen. And I think probably the biggest reason that you're seeing more freshmen playing is summer school. Before, way back, we couldn't bring kids in. You could, but they had to pay to go to summer school. Now, we pay with them. We put them in a 6-week program, and, they pick up, we may call it oranges, they call it apples. So it's terminology, so they learn all that, so it allows them to perform a little quicker.
Any more questions? How about on the risers? Okay, if there's no further questions, the still photographers can gather in front of the trophy. And as soon as Coach Briles enters the room, we'll have a joint
Can I make a
photo
last
op.
statement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank the Fiesta Bowl committee, and I've met most every one of them, and I've been to a lot of bowl games. I really have been, and I think as a host, they've done just an outstanding job, and you know, I can't say enough about it. I don't want to embarrass them, but I think basically it's obvious that why I talked to other coaches before I got here, they said this was the best of them as far as how they treated the players, the coaches, the fan base, and they were 100% right. So again, I want to thank the Fiesta Bowl, the work they put into this, and exactly the work you put into is what you got done. And again, we're extremely happy at UCF what was done, and I know the players are ecstatic and they're ready to go out and compete and give you a great game. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. And again, for the video cameras on the risers, we will give you a clear shot as soon as the still photographers are done, so everybody will be taken care of. Coach Briles will be joining us momentarily.
You mind leaving?
Okay, Coach Briles has joined us for about 25 minutes. He'll offer a few opening comments, and then we'll go to questions for him. Coach?
Good morning. Good seeing Coach O'Leary and his entourage. Classy people, as always. I mean, you don't arrive at this state and in a program or survive as long as he has without having a certain amount of outstanding qualities, which he certainly possesses. So a lot of respect for him, a lot of respect for UCF, a lot of respect for the Valley of the Sun. I mean, an amazing venue, you know, gracious people, unbelievable weather, you know, which I don't know if y'all have control over or not, but it's pretty nice. And, you know, big time atmosphere. So we're just, you know, tickled to be a part of it, take a lot of pride, feel a tremendous amount of responsibility not only to Baylor but to the Big 12 and to the southwest part of the United States, or the southern part of the United States, to represent extremely well tomorrow night in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
Questions for Coach Briles? Please identify yourself and let us get a microphone to you. Let's start on the aisle over here to the right.
Bryce Cherry, Waco Trib. Art, I was talking to Ian yesterday, and he said that he expects maybe more than 20,000 Baylor fans to be here for this game. I also saw on social media that there's a group of fans that plans to dress up like you with like long sleeve shirts.
Bless their heart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be some bad looking fans in the stands there.
Have you gotten a sense of maybe just how beloved you've become by Baylor fans?
You know, not really. And you know, I don't think you pause to, you know, to ever feel that way, because, you know, that's not what it's about. I mean, quite honestly, for me or for any of our coaches, or I think, you know, for anybody in the profession. I mean, you're in it for the thrill and the ability to compete in an arena that's an equal playing surface every time you get in it. That's the thing I love about, you know, football and really any team sport. When you cross over the lines, everybody's equal. So I mean, that part of it's what drives me. You know, I'm very, very humbled and grateful, you know, for Baylor University and everything that they stand for and what we've been able to do as a football program. So that's going to come with it, you know. But I know we're going to have a great crowd. I've been out moving around this morning, and, you know, I was out last night at another hotel and, you know, saw the band and everything. So there's going to be a lot of green and gold in the stands. But those folks that are doing that, you know, if they want to dress up and look good, they need to pick out another person to emulate.
Questions? In the riser in the back.
Joaquin Sanchez, Time Warner Cable News. Coach, after such a long layoff, you've got such a strong and timing offense. Any concern that the layoff will slow you guys down a little bit, maybe at the beginning of the game?
You know, I hope not. It has been a while. I mean, this has a first game feel to it. I think like most bowl games do. Kind of depends on when you finish up and when you play. But, you know, the thing that our main concerns are more with the special teams, you know, because that's an area that is always concerned. But anytime there's a layoff, you know, you add a little bit to it. So I think that's where it's at. I mean, the speed of the game is always something that is a little bit of concern when you're off, as you mentioned, you know, I don't know how long it's been, 25, 26 days. But, you know, we practice at a pretty high, you know, pace, pretty good tempo in practice. So that part of it actually should not be, we don't feel like will be an issue.
Questions? Raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. Back at the riser again.
Peter Nugent, KCN and Waco. Coach, just want to get your thoughts real quick on what the new stadium does for you and the program, and how it will help you continue to grow and recruit.
You know, it's already helped tremendously. And the great thing about our stadium is that, I mean, you can build a lot of stadiums, you know, across the nation, but, you know, the thing that's unique about ours is we can put it on I-35 and the Brazos River. And there's, you know, they're saying 42 million people this year, so I'm saying in 2 years it'll be 44 million, you know, that pass by there every year that are going to look over and see, I guess at this time, Drayton McLean Family Stadium. And I'm not sure about the name that they decided to go with. I just know that Drayton's name is going to be on it, and deservedly so, you know, because he's been a driving force on that stadium for about the last 4 years, him and, you know, a few other people that are involved in Baylor. So that's a big deal, you know. If you get a kid a choice between, you know, driving, I guess in this day and age, a 2003 car or a 2013 car, he's probably going to choose the 2013. So it's a good thing to have a new stadium up, ready to go.
questions in the back on the aisle?
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Art, I talked to Coach O'Leary about it, the coaching stability. He was at Georgia Tech for a long time. He's been at UCF for a long time. You've had your staff together for a long time. How important is that coaching stability to success?
It's critical, Jerry. I mean, as you know, I mean, the great thing about having guys that have been together for a long time, which, you know, we've been fortunate on, you know, especially the offensive side of the ball and defensively, we're getting that way, you know, with Phil and them, you know, being there the last 3 seasons, is that, you know, players don't walk around on eggshells. I mean, they know what they're going to get before they get it. They know how they're going to be treated. They know how, you know, they're going to need to respond when, you know, they're called out to do something. So that's very comforting, you know, not only to the coaches but to the student athlete. And, you know, I've always felt like consistency is the key to success. You know, a lot of people will flash, they'll drive, they'll commit, they'll flow, they'll go for a little while, but then they'll change, they'll burn out, and they'll lose their drive. So, I mean, I think as long as you keep a strong, consistent effort, you know, to do things the same way at the same, you know, drive and determination and tempo, you know, with your intellectual ability, and then let the physicalness follow, then you got a chance to have continued success.
Second row.
John Warner, Waco Trib. Art, will you take your guys over to the stadium today? And what do you like about playing in a dome?
Well, to answer the first question, no, we're not going to do it because it's a little bit of a drive. It's about a 40-minute drive, and you know we have a pretty busy day, you know, with a walkthrough, and then and actually I don't think you can walk through at the stadium. I think you can just go there and look. If that's correct. But Kelly, is that right? I mean, I've been told you can't actually walk through it, so there's no reason to go do that. We'll get there 2.5 hours before the game tomorrow, and you know our guys will get to walk around on it. And I believe they pull the turf out and put it back in, roll it back in today or tomorrow. But we won't do that. And then what was the second part? Yeah, I mean that to us is, you know, we feel like we really like it. You know, anytime we can play in an enclosed environment where we don't have to worry about the wind and the weather, we feel like it's a big plus for us.
To the left, Coach.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel. Coach, the Washington Redskins job is opening. Your name has been mentioned. Have you had any contact with them, and has the NFL piqued your interest at all?
You know, Kelly's got my phone. I don't think I've got a missed call from Dan Snyder, do I, Kelly? Okay, no, I don't. So, you know, it's all speculation and rumors, just like some other things that are out there, and that's all they are. I haven't had any contact with anyone collegiately or NFL. You know, my total focus is on winning this football game, being a Baylor Bear for a long time. I've never deviated from that. The 6 years I've been at Baylor, I've never interviewed with anybody, you know, while I've been there. So I love the job. I love where I'm at. You know, I love the people that I'm involved with, and I feel very fortunate and humbled and privileged, you know, to be at Baylor University. So that's, you know, that you can't control what other people say or do, but you can, you know, live your life, and, you know, the time always tells, you know, so that's kind of the way that deal goes. But it's for Baylor, you know, and I think for the Big 12, I think that's a plus, you know, that people would seek out, you know, one of our, you know, contemporaries in this profession, in this league, you know, at that level. But as far as interest in NFL, you know, if we're just being honest, which I like to be, I think the thing that would interest me would be our style of play at that level. You know, that's the only thing that, you know, that would attract anybody, I think, in a position that I'm in would be, you know, the style of play, because I like how we play from a philosophical, schematic standpoint. I know the rules are different, you know, limitations on the number of people available in a game, but to me that works an advantage. You know, if they got 46 guys available, then, you know, there's going to be a few of them getting tired on one side of the ball. So that would be the only thing that would, you know, spark my interest a little bit on that end. But, you know, it's not something I would pursue.
Third row.
Lee Small, News Channel 25. Coach, what type of a message are you going to deliver to your team beforehand, before the game tomorrow? And is that something you think about ahead of time, or are you just an emotions guy when you deliver that?
You know, I always think about it without question. You know, I think anytime in this day and age, if you open your mouth and talk, you got to feel like it's going to be repeated all over the world, regardless of what the situation is with the availability of people to have a phone, record everything that's ever said. So, yeah, I certainly think about it. And when you're talking about delivering the message, to me, our message is tonight in our team meeting. When you get in the locker room before the game, it's not as a structured and environment that you really have to really attract people's attention. So we always have a real good team meeting before the game, the night before the game, which this is Friday for us. And that's when I'll have a chance to address our seniors and tell them, how grateful I am for them, what they've done for this football program, going 4 bowl games in a row, winning the Big 12 championship, leading us to a BCS, bowl game, and setting the standard extremely high. So I really didn't have that opportunity to do that with them before our last game of the regular season because it wasn't their last game. This is their last game, so this is it. So that to me is when the message will be delivered tonight.
Here in front.
Coach Danny Morales of the Valencia Voice. UCF's defense has been exposed sometimes throughout the season. Is there anything you've seen on tape that you guys are going to look to take advantage of?
Where were you from? I'm sorry. Okay. Can I respectfully disagree a little bit? Okay, because I really don't think they've been exposed. I mean, they played extremely well this entire year, and I think you can look at the stats to back it up. I mean, they're a really good football team, and when you think of Coach O'Leary, like was up here earlier, and like I've been around since 2005 minimum, that's his bread and butter. That's what they do, and they've done it well for a long, long time. So, I mean, those guys are extremely well coached. There's different levels of what you consider exposure, but we have a whole lot of respect for what they do on both sides of the ball. And their approach to the game from a philosophical standpoint, I think really is what allows them to be successful. I mean, I could give some comparisons to people we played, but I won't. But they're similar to some people that we played this year from a philosophical standpoint, without question.
Here to the left.
Martin Rickman, Sports Illustrated. Coach, Dino Babbers has said that the program he's trying to run is a carbon copy of yours. Obviously, you're familiar with him, but what does that say about the success that Baylor's been able to have that other teams are at various levels are trying to emulate what you're doing here at Baylor?
Dino's a great guy, and he's a heck of a football coach. I'm really happy for him, and he's a smart guy. He's got people on his staff that have been around us since back when we were at University of Houston. No, I think it says that he was with us, for 4 years and saw, the way we handle student athletes, the way we approach the game from an intellectual standpoint, schematically, and felt like that fit what he wanted to do. And he's been successful the last 2 years at Eastern, and I think he'll do a great job at Bowling Green without question. So I'm really happy for him.
Back at the risers.
Coach Joaquin Sanchez, again, Time Warner Cable News. Can you talk about Tevin Reese's return, how he's looked in practice, catching the ball and everything, and how his return could impact the game or what you want to see from him?
I'll say those legs are fresh. Boy, he looks fast now, I'm telling you. And, and that's the thing that you have to try to be careful with, this time of the year, late in the years, making sure you guys are always fresh. And the thing about Tevin, since he hadn't played since November 7th, I mean, that was a built-in plus for him. So, yeah, he's had a great speed. It's certainly given us a spark. He's a guy that the defense has to respect just because of the threat that he puts on the table, which can help create some other things for us from an offensive standpoint. So, I mean, we're really excited to get him back. And I've said it 2 or 3 times. It's not about what he does for the football team that excites me. It excites me that he gets to be back with his, friends and his teammates and get to go through the process with them of preparation and then getting on the field and performing, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I mean, the other will take care of itself one way or the other, but, when you get to get in the car and ride with somebody to get to the end of the road, I mean, that's where the journey is.
Here to the left, Coach.
Gail Jessup, Fox 10 here in Phoenix. It took a while for Bryce Petty to get his chance. Can you just talk about, you look at his numbers and they're so impressive, his efficiency, what he's been able to do his first year as a starter?
I think it's phenomenal, quite honestly, and you mentioned waiting for him to get his chance. You mentioned efficiency. Both those, efficiency as a quarterback is the number one characteristic, you know, as far as production on the field. I mean, you have to have a lot of intangibles, you know, from other standpoints like poise and trust and belief and confidence and character and, you know, all the things that go into making a person be efficient at that job. But the way he waited for his opportunity, you know, and I mentioned it, you know, he didn't start, if there's a ladder with 10 rungs, you know, he didn't start up here. You know, he started down here and he's waited and he's worked and he's got up there. And a lot of times when you do that, which I think that's the way you do things, if you appreciate where you're at, you know, it makes you very determined. It makes you very humble. It makes you very grateful for how you land up here on rung number 8, which is about where he's at, you know. And so for him to come in as a first-year starter after not playing for 4.5 years and to lead us to a Big 12 championship and have 31 TDs, 2 interceptions, and be the person that he is on and off the football field and get us to a BCS game, I think it's unmatched in the nation this year for a first-time starting quarterback. I can say that. Did Winston start last year? It's almost unmatched, you know, this year for a quarterback in the nation, because he had a pretty good year too.
Top riser.
But we're proud of Bryce, without question.
The back riser, coach. Please identify yourself.
Sean Giggy, 254 Sports. Coach, obviously the BCS is going to be gone next year, and this was your last opportunity to get a bid into a BCS game, and you made it happen. Just what does that mean to you to, before this system goes away, to be able to kind of make history and get here for the first time in the last year of the system?
Well, it means it's great. You know, when we got there before it's done, so it's a big deal because the last, I don't know how long BCS has been in existence, maybe 13 years, 14. I mean, I'm not sure. Somebody I know knows, but that's all anybody talks about, you know, in a program. If you're a Division 1A school, is being in a BCS bowl game or, you know, making it to a BCS game. You know, if you're in a non-BCS conference, you're talking about being a BCS bowl, you know, BCS buster. You know, so that's been the talk for at least the last decade. And, you know, for us to be able to get in there to earn our way in there, because, you know, you don't just go out and choose somebody and say we want them unless you're an at-large, you know. And if you're an at-large, then you're at risk. You know, if you want to get in there, win your conference, in a BCS conference, you're in. So that to me is the part that's important. I mean, we earned our way into it. Last year of existence, I don't know what we'll be saying next year. Be one of the top 4. I mean, I don't know what the chance is going to be, but we'll figure something out. But it is a privilege and honor to be able to get in the BCS game, you know, before it's all said and done. At least we made it.
Here in the aisle, Coach.
Bryce Cherry, Waco Trib again. Art, you mentioned the seniors and the 4 bowl games and setting that standard. You guys are now sitting here at 11-1, chance to go 12-1, most wins in Baylor history. Has a new standard been set in terms of what is acceptable, what is you know, what you guys want to accomplish?
Without question, and you know, you've been in our practice field, you've seen the sign on the side, you know, and that's the thing we're proud of. You know, we want to be the standard. I mean, the thing that we pride ourselves in is, you know, no excuses, no complaints, no comparisons. I mean, that's our motto. That's what we go by. And, you know, we're going to be who we are, and we're going to try to be the very best that we can be every day, you know, regardless of what is happening anywhere else, because that's something we can control. And so I think the standard has been set. I think it's got set extremely high, which is extremely good in my opinion, because, you know, I threw a quote out after our last game. I don't want to mess it up. Somebody told me it wasn't Michelangelo, but so I didn't know. I just believed what the guy sent me. But I love the quote because I think it fits. You know, a lot of people, and myself included, you know, sometimes you got to be careful. But I think it was something like, you know, the problem is not that people aim too high and miss. It's that they aim too low and hit. You know, so I love the fact that we've set our standard, you know, really up here, because the next goal for us and the next reach for us is to go undefeated, win the national championship, because all these others, you know, we have to win tomorrow night. You know, all these others have been accomplished if we win tomorrow night. So, I mean, there's always something else out there, and that's, you know, that's what motivates you and keeps you going.
Back to the risers. Oh, to the left. Okay.
Steve Cook, Sikkim Sports. Baylor's been getting most of the press. UCF's kind of flown under the radar. Are you having to guard against overconfidence, or how are you reacting to being the top dog instead of the scrappy underdog?
I got posed that before we left Waco 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's never going to be an issue with us, Stephen. I mean, because of the way we feel, the way we act, the way we prepare, and the way we talk to each other. We're never going to feel like we're the big dog because, I mean, when you start walking around wondering who's looking at you, it's when you walk into a pole. You better stay focused. You better make sure that you're taking care of your business, or because somebody's going to sneak up on you and get you. So we've always lived on being the guy that's, chirping and getting in there and making a name for ourselves by how we perform, how we play, and how we, get ready to play a football game or anything that deals with our program from a mental standpoint. I don't feel like we're the big dog in this game. I mean, we could give a couple examples of, so-called upsets that have happened over the last 2 or 3 days. When you walk on the field, like I mentioned earlier, everybody's equal. They're a good football team. They've won 41 games the last 4 years. And like I said yesterday, I don't know of another team that's done it maybe than Alabama. And I hadn't looked it up, I hadn't thought about it really other than just saying that, but that's about the only team I can think of that's won that many football games in a 4-year span over the last 4 years. So under the radar, on the radar, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's when you tee it off, you play football and you see who's better.
In the back.
Pierre Nugent from KC and Waco again, Coach. Just to kind of follow up on Bryce a little bit, you've had 3 different quarterbacks in the last 3 years with all different kind of skill set from Robert and Nick. Can you just talk about what it's been like to coach 3 different kind of quarterbacks and why you feel they continue to just have the type of success they've had despite different skill sets?
That's a great question. And, we've been very fortunate, when I was in high school, we had 6 D1 quarterbacks. At U of H, we had Kevin Cobb and Case Keenum, both great players, great quarterbacks, different skill set levels. And then you had RG3 and Nick Florence and Bryce Petty. I mean, once again, all different, skill level sets. I mean, Robert's, he's a freaky athlete that can do anything. He's an X factor. Nick, if you don't pull a book out here and ask for a word to be pronounced and what the definition is, because he can tell you. He's salutatorian out of 650 people, in his high school. So extremely intelligent, extremely efficient, like was mentioned earlier. And then Bryce is just a great combination of everything. The 2 or 3 things that really surprised me about Bryce, I mean, not surprised me, but that made me really feel comfortable was, and you never know till you get on the field. I mean, because experience is something that, you can have all the money in the world, but you can't buy it. You gotta feel it, you gotta touch it, and you gotta taste it, and you gotta have it. So once he got his experience, we got on the field with him. I saw how poised he was. I saw how much, character that he possessed as far as, being patient with people around him and understanding that, he's got to lead, but at the same time he's got to help, which is something that's critical at that position because, you have to have people, play with you as well as playing for you. And he's done a great job of mixing his personality with our team, and I think it's really paid off. But, all 3 of those guys are different people. It's a little unusual in this day and age to go 3 years in a row with 3 different quarterbacks. It's not something that, we like, or it's not something we plan, but, it's worked out. And, hopefully, Bryce will have a great year again next year, and then we'll have another one in 15.
To the left, Coach.
Lee Small, News Channel 25. Coach, you have a couple of guys who are possibly looking at leaving early for the NFL with Bryce and Lake. How do you, not just their decision in terms of the specific player, but how do you go through any decision, whether it was Roberts, looking ahead to the NFL and kind of evaluating that person's potential at the next level?
Yeah, with Robert, I told him to go. I mean, because we knew he was, at that time, at least a top 10 pick. And we were talking, about this time 2 years ago. It was right after we played our Alamo Bowl. So, if you're a top 10 guy, first rounder, go. I mean, I think that's pretty simple. I counseled with Cyril and Ahmad last year. Both of them were contemplating maybe coming out. And both of them, I think, made great decisions to come back. I think it's certainly going to help both of them. Certainly helped our football team, but it's helped them as their draft status, without question. I think both of them have the potential to be first rounders. Time will tell. We'll know next May, or this coming May. What is the date? 31st. So we'll know, when May gets here. And then these guys this year, I mean, we'll look at it after the game. Bryce has mentioned that he's going to come back. I think it's a really good decision for him. I think he's NFL ready, but I don't know if he's NFL ready. You know, I mean, I think physically he's NFL ready. You know, but with the number of snaps you got to take, like I mentioned yesterday, when they draft a guy high, they want him to start. You know, and you know, it's tough now. You know, to walk in there as a rookie and be ready to play, you know, every snap just straight out of the gate. So I think the more reps he gets collegiately will certainly help him at the NFL level. And he, you know, I mean, how old's Peyton? 42. I mean, I don't know how old he is. He's 38. He's not young. You know, he's been around a while, and he's still very effective. So it's not like at the QB position, you know, the lifespan's, you know, a little longer. So, I mean, you come in there, you play, and you can go 10 or 12 years and, you know, take care of yourself, have a great career. With Lake, you know, we'll talk to him when it's over. You know, I still think he's got a lot of growth that would certainly benefit him by staying. You know, as a football player, as a person, he's made tremendous amount of growth over the last couple of years. He's tremendously talented and just a great human being. So when this game's over tomorrow, I'm sure I'll talk to him when we get back to Waco, and you know, we'll look at his draft status and then make a determination from there.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Art, it's Sir Ken Robinson, by the way, on the quote.
Is that who it was?
Sir Ken Robinson.
Thank you, Jerry. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So somebody actually emailed me and said it wasn't. I mean, I thought Michelangelo was a painter.
Yeah.
I didn't know he's the quote master.
Famous quote guy.
Yeah. Okay. So Sir Ken Robinson.
Yes, I looked that up for you.
Okay.
I
thought you were going to say Sir Jerry Hill.
Sir Jerry Hill said that many years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Drayton said that you were one of the guys that encouraged him to use the name. Why was it important, did you feel like, to have his name on the stadium?
You know, I did not know that he said that. I hadn't seen the press release. So I mean, what are they going to call the stadium? McLean Stadium. Okay, beautiful. I mean, it's great. I mean, I think, you know, first of all, you know, he's a man that's given to Baylor for many, many years, you know, and it's very important in the Baylor nation, the Baylor family, and Baylor University. So if he wants to, you know, have his name on the stadium, that's going to be a legacy for generations. Like I said, people are going to drive by there and look, and they're going to associate McLean Stadium with Baylor University. I mean, they're going to know it's Baylor, you know, what the stadium is. But to see his name up there, you know, as they pass those trucks right next to him and say McLean Trucking Company, you know, that's his prerogative. It's kind of like the old Bobby Brown song. You know, I mean, if that's what he wants to do, let's do it. You know, and that's what ought to happen. You know, because I mean, something talks, and something else walks, and you know, he's put the talk on there. You know, so put it out there. Why not? Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great for his grandkids, and then from then on. So I'm proud and I'm happy that he made the determination to make that thing happen for Baylor University.
In the back to the right.
David Smoke, ESPN Central Texas. Art, you like to kind of use that chip on the shoulder mentality in players you recruit. With the success you've had now recently, can you still have that chip on your shoulder?
I mean, I can, because I've had it. You know, I've dared somebody knock it off, and then they've knocked it off and knocked me down too. So I mean, yeah, I mean that's always going to be there, David. I mean, I think that's just the personality of who we are, you know, as a staff, who we are as a team, and you know, I don't want to say who we are as a university, but you know, because we're you know pretty elite group, you know, academically and athletically, quite honestly. But you know, I've always you know, gravitated to people that, you know, felt like they had to earn their due, and they had to earn their respect, and you know, and they felt good about, you know, working extra, you know, preparing extra, and you know, intellectually and physically, you know, to earn people's respect, and that's something that has always motivated me, and that's, you know, that's what we look for in student athletes, quite honestly. If I can find a guy that's hungry, you know, like Bryce Petty, that'll wait 4 years and have his turn to play, and all these other people like Ahmad Dixon that'll come to Baylor, you know, after back-to-back 4 and 8 seasons and believe in himself, you know, that he can make a difference, then you have a chance to have people that can make a difference. That's what we talk about, be a difference maker. You know, we can find normal, You know, I can find somebody normal. I don't want normal. You know, I want somebody that's going to act different, play different, and prepare differently. And so that's never going to be an issue. I mean, regardless of, you know, we won the Big 12 championship. Okay, what are we going to do next year? You know, great. You know, but, you know, guess what? It's over. You know, so we got to go back to work. We got to grind, and we got to, you know, fight hard to stay where we're at.
How about one more question here on the aisle?
Jeff Metcalf, Arizona Republic. You were talking about you'd like to see what your system could do in the NFL. Is what Chip Kelly's done this year suggest to you that your system could work?
You know, unfortunately, I hadn't had a chance to watch them that much, you know, and I mean, even the other day, I didn't get to watch the Dallas game just, you know, because of things that are going on here. You know, I don't know if he's, you know, using the same tempo in the NFL that he used at Oregon. You know, that's the thing I really don't know from not being able to watch and see. I think what you throw in there maybe is the mindset, you know, and the philosophy of here's how we're going to attack from an offensive standpoint. You know, I would have to look at that on tape or talk to Chip, see if that's still the same way that he feels. But whether it's evidence or not that it could work, I don't know. But I think it's, you know, by them winning the division championship in his first year in there, I think there's some indications that, you know, there's a new kid in town, and you know, his name might be Chip Kelly. You know, I don't know, but I mean, they've done pretty well first rattle out of the box.
Coach, thank you.
Not to quote an Eagles song either. I could cross genres on you.
Again, media party tonight here at the Camelback Inn, 7 to 10. Please wear your pin. Thank you for your attendance.